1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's see. All right. 0 viewers to start. Awesome. Jordan Sheridan live with Jen Dyes. Jen,
Hello,
how
my
you doing?
friends. I don't know, to be honest. I'm doing better than I was. It's been quite a road though, here in Genland. Not feeling I don't know if a lot of you realize this, but I caught something after Flint, and then we obviously didn't know what it was, and so I immediately quarantined, and I was feeling very ill, very, very bad. And so I had to quarantine, and I was stuck in Michigan, close to Flint, but not in Flint. Like, if I'm going to have to be away from my family, it really sucked to literally have to be holed up in a hotel room, not being able to do journalism, etc. But long story short, I did not have COVID. I had 4 tests that week total, including the PCR and 3 rapids. Did not have COVID, thank God. But my long hauler is really catching up with me, and it's been tough. It's been really hard. So I'm glad to be on today, though.
Can I kindly, I want to table that for a second because I want to talk about it when more people come in, because I think we should get into it a little more as much as you're comfortable talking about it. But at the moment, we only have 20 viewers. So please smash that like button, share the live stream. Sharing is caring. We are doing this live stream a little on the shorter end because it is Wednesday and we are going to be exclusive on Rockfin around 4:30. Maybe give or take. Today, Jen, we can't really go into depth for fear of censorship here on the YouTube, but we're going to be discussing a topic that you and I have discussed a lot in our time. That you have, what are you up to? 2,000 books, documentaries on this
I have quite a collection of JFK and Kennedy, and Bobby books. A big collection. Every time I see one, I have to buy it. What else am I going to do? I'm not addicted to like drugs or something. I'm addicted to JFK books. Not a big deal.
Hold on.
So I'm excited.
Oh, yes. We are not going to get in depth on what we're going to, Colin, if you could send a text message out too. We're not going to get into depth about the specific topic because, as Graham Elwood could tell you and others on YouTube, it's interesting, Jen. If you dare dig into one of the biggest, I can't think of a bigger event of the 20th century, obviously dropping the bomb on Hiroshima, World War I and II. But if we're talking biggest event in terms of conspiracies that are actually true, you can't really talk about it on this platform without extreme censorship. So we'll be live on Rockfin.
Which is true, because as I was looking for, sourcing and stuff for this, what we're going to talk about on Rockfin, it was a video on JFK. It wasn't controversial at all, but just like they do with COVID misinformation, they put a little disclaimer, like, here's what the official CDC recommendations are, whatever. So they have that under a JFK video about JFK. Like, here's it. Basically, I took a screenshot of it, but it was basically like, here's the official story. Yeah. So it says, here it is. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it says context, and then it says assassination of JFK. So they popped that on a Joe Rogan clip about JFK, like, context, here's the official story, sort of deal. So
so I'm excited. I always like to be honest with the audience, what I know, what I don't know. Jen is the teacher here. I will be the student for the most part. I've actually read some books on the JFK assassination, all of them sent to me by Jen, by the way. So I know the ins and outs, but we're going to be talking about the assassination today, and we're also going to be connecting it, Jen, to what's going on today in Afghanistan, which on Monday, I spoke with a U.S. Afghanistan war veteran turned I can't pronounce this word for the life of me, conscientious objector
You got it.
So he refused. This is Army Ranger Rory Fanning refused after joining the armed forces in Afghanistan, refused to keep serving because of the heinous, frankly, war crimes the United States was pulling there. So he was discharged in 2004. So I spoke with him about what's going on there. Then yesterday, I spoke with Steve Grumbine about the financial lie that our taxpayer dollars covered this, cowboy voyage in Afghanistan. But there is connections dating back to the mid 20th century and this assassination / CIA plot. Can you hear me? CIA plot. There is connections to JFK and Afghan, not direct connections, but similar themes. So we're going to get into that on our Rockfin stream. As we always told you, Jen, I addressed this yesterday, but maybe you might have a thought too. So just reminding people, the point of us starting on Rockfin, and I think this will be our 5th or 6th exclusive Rockfin stream. The point was twofold. Number one, so we could do things like we're about to do in 20 minutes or so, talk with zero censorship. Obviously, we always, first and foremost, have our facts straight, because if we're not being honest with you, what's the point of watching us? But Rockfin, I do believe, has been consistent with being a censorship-free place and letting people cover pretty much any topic they want and the way they want. So that was number one. But number two, we love our comrades in independent media, but the truth is we have way higher overhead than them. We just spent a hell of a lot of money just to go to Flint for a week. And, other things we have spent money on, within the last 2 months, we spent money on a 2-week reporting trip. We just, God, I hate this IFB. We're redoing our website, which will be premiering possibly this week. That cost a pretty penny, a lot. There's a lot of expenses when you're actually traveling and doing actual journalism in the field, not to mention myself, Jen, Colin, freelancers we use. So with Rockfin, it presented us with an opportunity. YouTube revenue fluctuates. It's not the same amount every month. As we're further and further suppressed, it gets worse. Our membership, Status Coup membership, which is our main business model, that is our core revenue stream. But if you're going to survive in this new suppressed censorship media system we live in, Jen, you got to have multiple revenue streams, right?
Absolutely. It's just good business. It's smart business. And different platforms offer different things. So while we want to make it extremely clear that Status Coup website members are our number one priority. We love our members. You guys keep us going. But we have to do, this Rockfin deal. It's just a reality. So yeah. I have exciting, or I'm excited about what's to come, because I think we're going to find a good balance between what's great for Rockfin and entices people to join Rockfin, along with making sure that you guys as members know that we love you.
Yeah. And also, we listened. So last week I was live, a week ago today, actually. I was live from Amazon Staten Island warehouse, where they held their first press conference. AOC was supposed to be there, but decided to cancel the day before. So that's a different topic. But, the thought was, well, we're going to go live exclusively on Rockfin, but, we'll be posting clips from our live stream that's just for Rockfin premium members the next day on YouTube. But, we heard you, and a lot of members felt like, well, I've been supporting you here, so why am I being locked out of this reporting? And I think there's validity to that. So we're going to try to strike a balance where we're not blocking you, because it's only really delayed for a day, but where important news that we want everybody to know about when it's happening is available for everyone. And then some other things that might not be as urgent, but still you'll only see on Rockfin, we'll have on our weekly exclusive on Rockfin. So I hope everybody understands.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in the idea that news and important information that's beneficial to people should not be behind a paywall, which is why we don't put news behind our membership paywall. We give extras there, like content that's not news, but is enticing and cool and really interesting for our members. But it's not news. It's like critical for the people. So I want you guys to rest assured that whether you have the funds to become a member, whether you have the funds to join Rockfin, or maybe you don't have the funds and you just share our stuff, that we appreciate all of those things, and rest assured we will not keep any important news from you.
Absolutely. And before we get to other things, just to remind you, again, I mean, if you don't have the funds, you don't have the funds, no big deal. But if you do have $9.99 a month, you get our exclusive live stream on Rockfin, as well as other hosts exclusive content on Rockfin. Lee Camp's on there. Graham Elwood is on there. There's quite a few right-wing nutsos on there too. But
yeah, and I have to be honest, I hate that.
Yeah,
I hate some of the like cesspool that we're in, but that's not us. It has nothing to do with us. And yeah.
Right. And by the way, we're on YouTube. That has a whole lot of terrible people too. So yeah, please sign up if you can. $9.99 a month. Because if you don't know, once we get to 100 premium members, which we are actually very close to, our guaranteed revenue from Rockfin goes up. So if you didn't know the deal, just joining Rockfin, we got a certain guarantee per month in terms of how much we would make from them. And then if we get to 100 subscribers, that goes up considerably. So help us do it. Rockfin.com/statuscoup. Jen, I want to move on because this is going to be a shorter live stream. You know, I don't know, Jen. I don't know. You know, at a certain point, you just get to a point. I mean, I'm not a nihilist. I'm not a journalistic nihilist, but you kind of get to a point where you start wondering, am I in the twilight zone? Are you in the twilight zone? Does genocide, environmental genocide, just not a story anymore? Is insane, massive corruption not a story anymore? And remember, smash that like button. Smash that like button. 120 viewers. We got to get it up. Everybody, like button. Is, you know, people 7.5 years later still drinking contaminated water? That's just yesterday's news. And, you know, I could go on a monologue and you could go on a monologue, but I thought, Colin, why don't we just show you what we just revealed in Flint? And as a reminder, this isn't about Flint anymore. It is, in terms of getting justice for them, making sure their water is safe. But this story was never just about Flint, Michigan. So we put in the headline 1 month later, because exactly 1 month ago today, we broke. I mean, I don't know of any bigger government cover-up this century. I mean, I know a lot of people have thoughts on 9/11. I know a lot of people have thoughts on, I mean, obviously JFK. But I'm talking this century. I personally don't know of anything that's more corrupt that led to people dying and the cover-up after the fact. So I want to show you, you know, Colin put together this really great montage of what is actually happening still to this day in Flint, Michigan, and what the story we just broke is about. But the Flint Journal, over the years of our reporting, seems to forget who they're journaling for. So Jen has put together handy dandy, you know, very, very easy to digest, almost like a book report here on our recent story that has the top bullets, phones belonging to top officials close to Governor Snyder, including his press secretary, were erased. We broke this a few weeks ago. I'm pretty sure the Flint Journal knows about it. broke it in the Detroit Metro Times and the Intercept on on Governor Rick Snyder's administration. Their phones were deleted. People might remember a couple years ago, a young boy was on the cover of Time magazine with rashes all over his body, and that was your son, Sincere.
There's nothing to show me what our test levels was. There's nothing to tell me where even anything from 2016 to 2014 is pretty much just not there. The most they have for me is something for 2018. I had 3 kids after 2014. I should have some sort of data, some sort of blood work, some sort of something. It's nothing there. So, when you talk about a cover-up and we talk about stuff like this, they've been covering our lead test results up from jump. Once they start saying that it was too many people being tested, we can't keep up with the records. We don't have the capacity to process all of this. What happens to all that stuff? What happened to all our, so nothing now exists at all that had to do with blood levels and what our levels were?
So, yeah, if you could just leave it for them. This is a major cover-up of the Flint water crisis. Okay, yeah, they're ignoring it. They're ignoring it. They know about it and they're ignoring it. So we've made it into a packet. It's the Detroit Free Press, so they should be covering it.
And 6 months after the water switch, my throat started bothering me. So my family physician of 20-something years sent me to an ENT. I got a tumor on my vocal cord. She watched it for 4 years. She was just getting ready to remove it. And she went into scope again, and there was coloring. And I knew from the look of her face, she's the age of my oldest. My oldest is 40. I knew, because she's in her mid-30s. And I got up and hugged her, because she didn't want to say it was cancer. So I went for a biopsy. Long story short, it was aggressive throat cancer. Henry Ford couldn't even identify the bacterias. And after radiation and everything, 6 months later, my lungs and my throat started bothering me again. I spent 3-4 weeks, and after that, they released me from ICU and CCU straight home, and I told them, I can't breathe. Well, within 24 hours, I was being rushed by an ambulance to early and complete respiratory failure.
I can leave here. No, I can't. It's not my rules, it's their rules.
Oh, so they don't like the public to...
Not that, but it's not that they don't like the public to come up, it's like they're so busy and the way that they go about things, just
Right, to block the public from coming up.
Actually, I think the entire United States needs to wake up and realize that the Democrats are basically Republicans. They're all the same ilk. We elected Whitmer and Nessel because they made all these promises.
Nothing.
Duh. We should have known better. I should have known better. I supported both of them.
See, my arms are still breaking out.
Tell them about your brown water.
Yeah, the brown water coming out of there.
In your bathroom.
In the bathroom, and they had to unplug it, and it was just disgusting.
And then all this other deny. You can't help but think that they're trying to get away with downright murder, not attempted manslaughter. Manslaughter. It seems like murder. It does not seem like they accidentally did this. It seems like an MO that they have taken across the nation to certain cities that are older and forget to add the anti-corrosive chemical and go, oops.
It's been 8 years, man. It's been 8 fucking years. I can't take it. I'm not going nowhere. I told them that. I'm losing my houses now. My health has gone to hell. And if I die because of this, I'm dead. I'm dead. But someone's got to speak it up. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know.
The Attorney General says she's not directly involved with the criminal investigation. Yeah, it's under her watch.
And justice delayed has been justice denied. She was not truthful to the people of this city. She told us that they were going to have some criminal charges. They did not just charges, but convictions. She did not want people to get away with these crimes. And we see a misdemeanor is getting away with murder. I always talk about how to get away with murder. Ask Snyder, ask Nessel. They're all helping him do it.
Of all of the people that have been affected in this city that have died, how come none of the cadavers have been tested for the lead in their bones?
Even before I moved to Flint, I could see the difference in my mom and my dad and my family that's lived here in Flint. Their health has gone to shit. They don't feel like doing anything or going anywhere. Or it's just it's horrible. You guys are out there and you guys are getting drip fed a line of bullshit from these top-notch news agencies, and you guys don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, we're here to drop off something with Mayor Neeley. We're journalists. I don't know if he's here right now, but we broke a major story 2 weeks ago. I don't know if the mayor knows about it, so we wanted to drop off the information. Congress is investigating what we found. Health officials, they had no messages on their phone for the entire period Flint used the Flint River. The governor refused to hand over documents for years. So I don't know if he knows about it or not, but that I've been in the business for a bit. That is what we call, please get the fuck out of here. So Jen, I don't know. I'm not often without words, but the video speaks for itself. We've already explained over and over and over again what our latest bombshell story was about. We found destruction of evidence, tampering with evidence, obstruction of justice that it appears Michigan Governor Rick Snyder was involved with. And not only that, but Congress seemed to think the story was relevant because they opened an investigation into it. Yet a month later, there's been no national outlet that has picked up the story. There's been no local Michigan outlet that has picked up the story. Even Democracy Now!, major independent outlets have not touched it. So I don't really know what else to say other than the media is in on the cover-up.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot left out of that video. For example, I went back myself and I spoke again because I was ill and I couldn't go the first time. So because I was still there in Detroit, I went myself to the Detroit Free Press, the Detroit News, which are very strangely in the same building. And I got in the door but again, only got as far as the security guard who had said she had to call the landlord to see if I was even allowed to ask if I could come up. And it was like several layers thrown down. Other parts, for example, with Roberto Acosta, when we were in the Flint Journal building in Flint, which is now just a satellite location because the Flint Journal is no longer in Flint. And I said, I highlighted part of what Jordan's interview with former Mayor of Flint, Karen Weaver, said. Basically, this is a cover-up to murder, and the current Attorney General is complicit. So we were trying to highlight these important points, in addition to handing off the packet, which included our reporting. It showed that folks were paying attention, meaning Rashida Tlaib, Mark Ruffalo, Susan Sarandon, Ro Khanna, others, Aaron Brockovich. So we had that in there. We had the AP press release that we had put out to kind of highlight how important this is. But we also used our words, and we weren't pleading, but it was basically like, why aren't you covering this? So multiple times at these locations, and Jordan and I were just kind of looked at as if we were nuts, and what are we doing? And in speaking to the mayor's office, I would say it was a very weird situation, because they have, you know, the woman who works at the front desk basically saying, no, we couldn't go see the mayor or whatever. But then I don't know what her role was, but someone who works directly for the mayor, Mayor Neeley, came out. I don't know if like a button was pushed, like, alert, we need someone from Mayor Neeley's office, but somehow she showed up. And so we spoke directly to her as well. And so what I think we found is that there's a true complicity of silence. There's no way that these outlets, these local outlets, these national outlets, there's no way that they don't know. There's no way they haven't read this story. Part of the reason we took out the press release that went out on the AP wire was because that gets delivered to basically every major, minor, national, local media in the country, and in some cases beyond the country. And we also opted to pay additional money to have it sent to a list of journalists specifically signed up for news on the House Oversight Committee's movements. Well, part of what our press release, our AP Newswire piece said that was in the packet, is the House Oversight Committee is now investigating based on our reporting. So you would think that if you target as narrowly as Flint, Detroit, Michigan journalists and outlets interested in news about the House Oversight Committee's actions and movements, you would think it would get out by this point. You would think if you're personally talking to the, you know, assistants and coworkers of these politicians or whatever, that it would get out. In addition to the on the ground like footwork of us taking this physically, we've sent so many emails, we've sent so many tweets and DMs. So there is a complicity of silence. They have all seen this. It's not a matter of not having seen it. Yeah.
And by the way, I just want to apologize to you, Jen. That was the first time I even watched the whole video. So if you don't know, Jen, despite me poo-pooing it, she created those packets that we used.
He did poo-poo my packet, which
as the driving force for us to go to these outlets and the mayor's office. It kind of looks like, oh, you have a packet, but like it was as simple as that. Like, how are you going to ignore it? We've broken it down in bullet form, pasted the tweets, pasted the press release. So that was all Jen. And Jen
literally had our contact at the top, like so easy.
Yeah,
paint by numbers.
And Jen went back a couple days after us to the Detroit Free Press. So that video's up. We might actually redo this one to include that and some other things. But what's astounding to me, Jen, is, you know, I don't know what other way to say it. I saw somebody in the chat. Why do you think the left media is not covering? Why do you think this? Why do you think that? You know, Jen, we have spoken over the last few months, probably too much, honestly, responding to people that probably we shouldn't have responded to, who have fallen into this basic good people, you know, not attacking them, but just falling into a dark space, in my view, of we just need to burn down the system. It's all the Democratic Party's fault, or it's all this person's fault, or it's individual YouTube hosts' fault. And, you know, taking our understandable despair and frustration, instead of weaponizing it strategically to get stuff done, basically just weaponizing it to just cancel everybody.
Yeah.
But I would argue what we're seeing with this Flint story, Jen, really exposes that, honestly, at this point, dem enter, dem exit, third party, fourth party, 10th party, general strike, all these things, whichever side of the fence you're on, because I'm not here to tell you to dem enter or dem exit or do a third party or not. I think people are missing the reason we have such a corrupt country to the point where American citizens are being killed by their government. That's what happened in Flint. And then it's being covered up after the fact. And it's not just Flint, by the way. There's a lot of stories like this. It's not always water, indigenous people, Black people, Latino people, industrial pollution, corporate waste dumped on their communities, which kill them. In a lot of cases, it's not even environmental; it's other factors. But if our free press exists to, if you want to be generous, ignore real corruption, but if you want to be accurate, cover up real corruption. Well, that's to me more. You can't fix or take down the government or take down the two-party duopoly or have a real direct action boycott and have it at all successful if the masses have no idea what's really going on. Let me repeat, glasses off. Most people in this country, believe it or not, do not lack compassion. Most have no fucking idea what's going on, and it's intentional. I've seen it for the last 6 years being on the road. I have felt that I am in a twilight zone pretty much wherever I go, because what I'm seeing, you then go and watch CNN or you then go on Twitter and it's like a complete alternate reality. So I'm not going to give up. I know you're not going to give up. We have shamed these outlets. Colin, if you could put the info on the screen, numbers, emails. We have confronted these outlets in person, as we just showed you. We have literally Congress issued a scathing statement. Keep it up for a while so people could jot it down. Congress has issued a scathing statement in response to our story, saying that Governor Rick Snyder obstructed their investigation from the beginning. And they have said, sources on the committee told us, we are opening an investigation. That's the House Oversight Committee, federal. We're opening an investigation. I don't know, Jen, in any sane world, that would be a front page news story, right? Journalistic outlet. I mean, The Intercept, Detroit Metro Times, we co-published it with them. They find evidence, obtained documents that top officials deleted their phones. Top officials, all their messages were missing for crucial periods that the Flint used the Flint River. Environmental department officials dumped off their phones to state IT. The state IT department, quote, wiped clean right after Snyder held a press conference in Flint, admitting the water was toxic. Snyder himself wouldn't hand over key documents to prosecutors. I mean, each one of these things, Jen, on its own is a story. But then you add in the House Oversight Committee responding and investigating. Then you add in not the mayor from 20 years ago, the last mayor of Flint, on camera, on the record, literally saying the Attorney General of Michigan is helping the governor get away with murder. These are not gray areas. This is not like I'm a young 21-year-old journalist and I go backpacking and I send Rolling Stone a piece that I think is visionary. And Rolling Stone gets back to me kindly telling me, keep going. This is not that. This is blinking red lights, corruption. And it's not only about the corruption. It's not only about the cover-up, which we have covered and exposed on a shoestring budget, by the way. All due respect, The Intercept didn't fund us to go to Flint as many times as we've gone. Detroit Metro Times hasn't funded us. You funded us, because we wouldn't have broken these stories without these trips, building sources, building relationships, digging. So it's just disgusting to me. And you know what? Let's just call it what it is. If we, maybe we expect this from the corporate media. I was a little naive, I guess, because I thought they cannot ignore this one.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect Democracy Now! Not to cover it. I didn't expect, I don't expect the Young Turks to do much of anything. But The Nation, name some others, individual hosts,
right.
individual hosts.
We've had, kudos to Abby Martin and Mike Preisner with Empire Files.
Katie Halper, Matt Taibbi.
Absolutely fantastic. Useful idiots. That was a great interview. Jordan's done Michael Moore now. Thank goodness, thankfully.
I was on a couple podcasts, Jen Perlman's show. We're going on Real Progressives tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern. So it's not like nobody has covered it, but at the end of the day,
a hell of a lot of so-called leftist, so-called journalists, so-called whatevers that are just still making shows about themselves and other people and drama and not talking about Flint.
Well, why don't we call it what it is, Jen? Since it was a Republican governor, it doesn't fold into their business model, right? Because it was a Republican governor, they don't. Oh well, you know, if it was current Democrat Gretchen Whitmer, we'd be all over it. But since it was a Republican governor, it doesn't quite fit into our model of doing 75 videos a week. How bad the Democratic Party is, which I agree, the Democratic Party is awful, but it's just amazing to me because at the end of the day, you know, my father, he's a little eccentric, but he's right about one thing because he calls me constantly.
Some Larry.
He calls me constantly. How we got to get this story out? I'm gonna drop it off at what's his name, Bruce Springsteen's house, because Bruce Springsteen cares about the environment. I'm like, yeah, just good luck rolling up to Bruce Springsteen's house. But he said, you know, water is the number one issue in life. We can't rant on the internet if we don't have water. We can't protest if we don't have water. We're also clean water. So to me, what could be a bigger story? Yes, we're exiting Afghanistan. Yes, we have a raging pandemic. And I'm not saying ignore those things, but I think the rest of the media has a ton of resources, Jen, to cover multiple things at once in depth. And I have been told by news editors at NBC News, even one I like, who just conveyed what their boss told them. Yeah, you know, happened so long ago, you know, it's it kind of was assumed that it was a cover up. So are we really breaking new ground here? Can like that would be like, well, you kind of assume that Richard Nixon was corrupt. So should we bother with Watergate? You know, saying like, for the amount of resources that would be invested, you know, fact checking, editing, legal, it's not, you know, they didn't want to say like, we're not going to make money off of this, but that's basically what they were saying. And it's just, honestly, I think everybody, and I'm talking to the left right now, is so fixated on the circular firing squad and going after the Democratic Party and going after the squad. And I'm not telling you not to criticize those people and cover those people, but you're missing the overarching thing that is maintaining the status quo. The donors and the corporations cannot buy off the politicians comfortably if it's being exposed to the masses. The governors can't get away with making reckless decisions and decisions meant for privatization and kill people if the actual truth of who knew what when that is exposed, then leading to just real charges, not misdemeanors. You know, go down the line. I mean, Standing Rock, that was barely covered in mainstream media to the point where even people in my life, despite me being there so much, when I explained it, they said, what was going on in North Dakota? I didn't know about that. So, you know, again, them enter, them exit, whatever. Forced to vote, you know, whatever. And I supported it. Jen supported it. But like I have said over and over, why are you forgetting to protest your media? Why should the Flint Journal comfortably suppress life or death information from the citizens they're supposed to journal with without people, you know, let them look out the window and see that, explain that to the masses. Civil disobedience. We're not talking about anything violent. Why should the Detroit News right now, Detroit Free Press right now, not have a couple hundred people out there? What New York Times, they all have public addresses. Like, it's great to shit on the corporate media and fancy and awesome clickbaity YouTube headlines. We do it quite a bit.
Well, it's not like that.
Not like others, but like, for the love of God, if there is one, the media is what maintains the status quo. This is why, no pun intended, we created this, because we need a status coup, not like a violent overthrow, but we need to counteract and hopefully figure out a system to actually debunk and break through. And I got to tell you, I'm not nihilistic, and I'm not crawling up in fetal position. I am taking tomorrow and Friday off because I'm exhausted. But at this point, Jen and I could only take it so far, folks. We could only break the stories and get the information and get it out there. But we obviously cannot will these outlets to be journalists. So we need help. I don't know what else to say, Jen. I'm going on a tangent, but we need help.
Yeah, it's hard not to get discouraged and even mad at especially those who are supposed to be your allies, right? The ones who are supposed to understand. Isn't that the point of being an independent media? So I think it's much less of a surprise that it's not headlines. It's not on the Chiron right now on CNN. That's not as much of a surprise. It's, you know, perhaps a little bit more surprising that the Flint Journal, just out of like, wow, we look really stupid if we don't cover this, or the Detroit News, same thing. But what is astonishing to me are so-called leftists who rail against the mainstream media, who rail against and are supposed to know and understand that, yeah, we have a really corrupt government on both sides. The DNC is not good. But when you have people who are much more ready to align themselves with Boogaloo Boys than they are to AOC, that's a problem. And it's even more of a problem when you have a story like what we broke about Flint, and people who are supposed to get it, who are supposed to be your allies, are too busy covering drama or railing against AOC, and at the exclusion, and that's fine to do, rail against AOC. We do when she does stuff that needs to be called out. That's great, but not at the exclusion of or the expense of reporting on Flint, reporting on what's actually happening in this country. So we've spoken to other real journalists that I trust and respect, and they are frustrated as well because they're seeing this also. The left media is a complete disaster. They're absolutely charlatans and grifters. And when you have a story like Flint, which we're so passionate about, and Jordan's like an encyclopedia of this Flint water crisis and all the corruption. I'm getting there, but he's like, he truly has it all down, can name all the players, all the timelines, all the events, absolutely everything. And like people will get mad at him for not talking about like the latest drama or whatever. And it's like, no, everybody wake up. This is what's important. This is what we're supposed to be talking about. We're supposed to be talking about Flint. We're supposed to be shining a light on the plight of the working class. We're supposed to be talking about environmental racism. We're not supposed to be like yelling at someone who doesn't say force the vote with enough force or enthusiasm for your liking. It's disgusting and infuriating, and real journalists are on the same page as us.
And to the inevitable response, well, Jordan, well, Jen, and we got to wrap up soon because we got to go to our exclusive Rockfin stream. So we hope
it's going to be fun.
We hope you'll join us at rockfin.com/statuscoup. To the people that would say, well, Jordan, these things in Flint are happening because of the corrupt Democratic Party. And if we don't rage at the Democratic Party and the squad, this and that, well, these things are going to keep happening. Okay, but why are the two mutually exclusive? Can somebody explain this to me? Yeah, first of all, it didn't just happen because of the Democratic Party. It was a Republican governor and his administration trying to privatize the water system and using poor people, majority black city, as guinea pigs. That's what happened. The Democratic president didn't give a shit, Obama. The current Democratic governor doesn't give a shit, Gretchen Whitmer. The current Democratic Attorney General, I don't know what she's doing. That's another topic. But
Obama fakely and disgustingly drinking not Flint water and calling it mission accomplished, essentially.
But this doesn't fit into like whatever box of narrative people want to push, that it's, it's Joe Biden's fault or it's Obama's fault. It's everybody's fault. It's the system's fault that we live in. It's the government's fault because this would have never happened if Flint, literally, there wasn't a controlled demolition of cities like Flint. for the last 40 years due to NAFTA, white flight, racist rezoning laws, and a whole lot of other things. But why are the two mutually exclusive? Why can't the people who want to rant and rave, Jen and I have already addressed those people. If you want to watch them, have at it. They have no strategy. None. Force the vote. Agreed with it.
Yeah.
That's not a strategy.
One of them is telling their audience that if Force the Vote had happened, then people wouldn't be dying from COVID right now because everyone would have Medicare for all. That's not even what the goal of Force the Vote was, dude. Pay attention to who you listen to.
But why can't you do what you do and then cover a massive government corruption story, the biggest government cover-up of the 21st century? If you don't want to have us on, so be it. I mean, I love Crystal and Sagar. She mentioned it for 20 seconds. I mean, I'm just being honest. I don't expect them to do their whole show on it, but 20 seconds is not enough on this. And this is coming from somebody who really likes her and appreciated being on with them several, including when they're at the Hill. Sure, there's other pressing issues, but please explain to me, what is a more pressing issue? Like, yeah, coronavirus is a major deal. Cover it. But this is not a massive issue that deserves airtime, that deserves pressuring government officials, pressuring other media to pick it up. People just literally being poisoned, then left to die, and a criminal cover-up that honestly, I don't even know if the mafia could pull this cover-up off. This is worse than the mafia. Go watch The Sopranos. They never pulled off something like this.
I wonder, I'm thinking aloud here, Jordan, but maybe I think part of, like, for you guys who are watching and the people who do care and who are awake to these sorts of things, I do think that part of the problem is that it is so complicated. And Jordan always says it's like peeling back the layers of an onion. Once you think you're done or you got one layer off, there's 10 more beneath it. And that is exactly what this is. So I'm wondering, like, maybe we should do a big Q&A about Flint and just have people like ask their questions.
I think that's a good segue, Jen. And after this, we have to end. But, you know, I've gone back and forth. I mean, at some point, I do want to write a book about Flint. Not just the play-by-play of what happened, but the media. I mean, I literally, if I could ever get fucking access to my email again, my personal email.
Oh my God, yeah.
I've
if
been
anyone
locked
has
out.
any Google connections, let us know.
Yeah, I've been locked out of my personal email for months. But I still have other emails. Once I just release all the emails with these editors, you'll be aghast at what these editors said to us for years. I think, and if you're a filmmaker watching and you got the distribution and you know how to get some money, I think we need to do a documentary series, not a film, a series, because this goes back, honestly, to the 1970s and 80s. Trade deals, deindustrialization, NAFTA, crime. I mean, a whole lot of things that led to the situation Flint was in the first place in the mid 2010s. And then, I mean, I could go through each episode. When I say I, Jen and I go through each episode, the privatization scheme, the switch, the water switch, the residents right away, getting rashes, hair loss, complaining, the real-time cover-up, because we have the emails of Snyder's people knowing about this. We also have the phone calls. I never even released some of the phone calls between Snyder and his lawyer.
Maybe we should like hire actors to do a dramatization, like really put do like an Oliver Stone style JFK doc.
My first choice, if you're watching,
Jake Gyllenhaal. He wants Jake Gyllenhaal to play.
My first choice, if you're watching, is Aaron Brockovich to narrate this thing.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like someone to play you. You wanted Jake
No, I'm
Gyllenhaal.
talking about a real like nonfiction docuseries.
Yeah.
If there's ever a movie,
saying, like JFK.
you know, I don't want to feed into people thinking I have a massive ego, but I am partial to Jake Gyllenhaal. I am partial to Jake Gyllenhaal. Anyway, before we go, because we're about to go to Rockfin, we're going to talk about this more, but we're just going to be frank.
Who's the one? Oh, Mary Louise Parker. You say I look like Mary Louise Parker for Weeds.
Oh, that is a good comparison. You do.
You say that. I didn't come up with that.
Yeah. But before we go to Rockfin, real quick, We'll probably set up some type of email or something like that. But I just want to be frank with you. We've taken a hit financially in the last few weeks. It is what it is. We had to pay for this new website.
Yeah.
We went to Cleveland for Nina Turner's election, then went to Flint. Some trips you break even, some trips you don't. On the Flint trip, as Jen explained, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It could have been me blowing out my back that I had to stay there several days longer. But
yeah, for those who missed the first part of the stream, you guys haven't seen me for a while, and that is because after Flint, I started to feel very ill. And
no, during Flint.
During Flint, I was trying to pretend, and I do this often, I was trying to pretend to feel okay because I have long hauler from COVID. I got COVID last November, for those who don't know. So I have long hauler, pretty bad. I'm a patient of the Johns Hopkins long hauler COVID clinic. And so anyway, for the most part, I mean, I'm not advocating this, but the only reason like I have any energy at all is because my doctor put me on Adderall, because I've had concentration and memory issues as well as part of this. So anyway, I'm often able to fake it, like right now, that I feel okay, even though I don't. But it's better at certain times than others. Anyway, but I couldn't. I got to a point where I could not fake it. I could not pretend to be okay. And so Jordan was going, and there's nothing like my heart is always in Flint. Like if you look at my Twitter bio, it says heart Flint, like love Flint. That's because it's always on my mind. It's always in my heart, like Flint. Being in Flint and reporting in Flint, like if I have to be away from my kids who are the top things in my life, it's gonna be for Flint. It's gonna be for Flint reporting. And so I got too sick. So I had Jordan and Colin dropped me off at this bookstore that I love. It's called Totem in Flint. If you're ever there, go. And so that's one of my favorite places, literally in the entire world, is Totem. And also the cheese balls at the White Horse across the street, which I still did not get, Jordan. That's a story for another day. But I was too sick, and so I was sitting there and just feeling ill.
Totem's a bookstore, by the way.
It's a bookstore / coffee shop, and we've done interviews with Melissa there, etc. It's just a great spot to catch up and do work, whatever. It's fantastic. Used books, totally local, great. So one of my favorite places on earth, in the most important city to me on earth, with the most important, other than my family, my children, the most important people on earth is Flint to me. So I got really sick. So sick that I'm sorry if this is like upsetting to say, but I was vomiting in Totem, like in the bathroom, and was really sick. Like I couldn't think straight. My brain was scrambled, which happens with long hauler. So Jordan and Colin were doing the important interview with the mother who her child was on. He was on the cover of Time magazine years ago. You guys hopefully saw that interview. Check it out if you haven't. Talking about the records being gone. I so wanted to be at that interview and meet her and push that interview around and do marketing, which is, if I'm not on camera, that's what I'm doing, is the marketing in the background. But I was too sick. I was so sick I couldn't even think straight. So when they were done, we were supposed to meet up with Melissa and hopefully do an interview. Melissa Mays, who we've interviewed many times, and she's just great. One of my favorite people on earth. She was inspiring to me and just a great person. But I was too sick. So they took me back to our hotel, which was 20-30 minutes out. And I just declined from there. Like I was afraid I would have to go to the hospital. It became apparent that it wasn't just long hauler symptoms, that I had caught something else. And so then came the fears of, oh my God, even though I'm vaccinated, even though I've obviously had COVID, did I get it again? Did I get Delta? So I quarantined. We were slated to leave the next day, I believe it was, if I'm not mixing up the timeline. But I couldn't leave. because I was too sick. I was too sick to pack. I was too sick to like move around, whatever. So Jordan and Cullen made sure that I had stuff I needed. Like Jordan got me a thermometer and like Gatorade and
oximeter.
An oximeter, yeah. And made sure, you know, because we didn't want to have contact, to like it was so sad to me because like I wanted to give Colin and Jordan like hugs goodbye, and like, you know, it was so sad. Like I had to wave goodbye from inside my hotel room, and it was just really, really sad. And I was like stuck there. And so here I was. I went to the.
Colin and I, by the way, got COVID tests because obviously if Jen thinks that she might have COVID, we were around her the whole week, so we got COVID tests.
Yeah. Yes. So, and I took one too, and it was negative. You can now get them. They're emergency FDA. They're not FDA approved, but they're emergency allowed. You can get them at Walgreens, CVS now. The Buy and Act Now tests. If anyone like thinks they have it, take a test so you don't infect anyone else. They're fairly accurate, not as accurate as PCR, but they're fine statistically. So anyway, I had to stay, and then I went to the urgent care, and that was a whole mess. But finally, I got to see the doctor, who was great. I was lucky to get a good urgent care doctor, and I was very lucky that it was walkable from my hotel, even though I died getting there. I'm grateful. So there are some things in my favor. But anyway, she did a PCR test. They did a mono test. They did a strep test because the back of my throat was very red and bumpy, and I was clammy. Had low grade fever, and she said my lymph nodes are all swollen and bad. Like she was worried, and I typically have lower blood pressure. My blood pressure was quite high, which is scary. My heartbeat was wrong and weird. So anyway, she said, you have to quarantine. We're sending too many of these tests out. Like the rates of Delta are skyrocketing. Like you need to quarantine. I said, well, I understand. I'm slated to go home. You know, I was supposed to go home yesterday. And she said, no, you can't. you need to quarantine. So I don't know how many days extra, probably 5 days extra I stayed. And so I felt terrible. I had a low grade fever that time. I was nauseous and vomiting and just so fatigued and awful, and my brain was scrambled. It was bad. So she gave me antibiotics. My test was negative. That week had 3 tests, and then I went to the Detroit News to go home. And that's when I stopped back over to the Detroit Free Press and the Detroit News. And I was there, by the way. I was like, I'm in Detroit. Dave Chappelle's in Detroit. I'm going. So that night I went to Dave Chappelle, and they COVID tested everybody. You could not come in if you were not COVID tested. So I had 4 COVID tests, all negative. So I had caught some other something on top of my long hauler. And since then, my long hauler's been bad. It's been really bad. So I think this is like a wake up call to me that I need to take it slower. I need to like let people know and not try to pretend that everything's okay. It's hard because I want to keep going. Like I was worried that I would never be able to return to journalism again. I was worried my kids would grow up seeing me laying in bed. And so the fact that I was in bed and so sick for 6 months after the November time I caught it, I kind of have been going full force, like, screw this. I'm not going to let this keep me down. Like, screw Rudy Giuliani, which is, I caught it from his stupid son at the press conference. But if I want to go for the long term, if I want to make a real difference, then I need to like pay attention to my body and slow down a little bit. But all that is to say, this is how much we care about the reporting that we do. We were reporting in Cleveland for Nina Turner's race, which she, unfortunately, we've said personally, we've supported her and her progressive policy. She unfortunately lost, but we were able to report with Bernie there and do interviews with Cornel West and do interviews with Nina and we were like, we're 3 hours away from Flint. Let's go over there. Jordan landed an amazing interview with the former mayor. You guys all saw that. We did really important, good work. And that all added up. And it was a tough decision to even go to Flint because we just didn't have the funds. But at the same time, it's like, we've got to get this story out in any way possible. And then with me getting sick and having to stay an extra 5 days, like it really has put a huge dent in our finances. And normally a big part of what I do, in addition to the journalism, is the marketing and the fundraising. And I was not able to do that. So we're in a hole right now. We're in a big hole. And yeah, I wish I didn't get sick. I wish I didn't have to stay in quarantine for 5 days, but that's the reality. So that's a really long-winded way of catching you guys up, but also saying if you do have the finances, it would be really helpful if you can help defray the cost of that, the Flint trip, and which I do think in the end will make a difference, and we're going to keep going, but also because I caught long hauler as a journalist trying to challenge Rudy Giuliani, and it's a reality for me daily. But this is how much we care about journalism and the stories and the people. So if you can, GoFundMe.com/statuscoup. Any amount helps. We also have PayPal.me/statuscoup if you prefer PayPal. Any amount helps. The hotel room that I was stuck in, it was about $110 a night for my room. So, and then the added expense of food. And I, of course, couldn't go anywhere. So I had to have people, by people, I mean like apps, bring me food and supplies and things. So GoFundMe.com/statuscoup. We're both very anxious about money right now for the company because of these added expenses. So again, if you're not able to, we completely understand. But if you do have the finances, GoFundMe.com/statuscoup or PayPal.me/statuscoup.
Indeed. We're about over a half hour late for our Rockfin stream. So real quick, super chats. Kami John, $5. Love the show, guys. See you guys in a few hours for Real Progressives Live with Jordan and Jen. Keep up the great work. Hope you'll join us tonight. We will. That's 9:00 Eastern. I think you could go to Real Progressives page to get the link and all that. Catherine Nichols, $20. Thank you for all you do. Thank you. Lana Dale hates the clock, $20. Appreciate it, Lana. Neil, $2, $20. Can you talk about how it is after the lead pipe changes? I unfortunately can't because we're very late for starting this stream.
They aren't changing inside the house. They aren't changing the mains.
Yeah.
They're only changing the service lines. So it's
they have not completely replaced the service lines, which are from the curb into the house. And they haven't touched the interior plumbing or the mains underneath the street. So basically, the water's still contaminated. Kami John again, $5, saying that we'll be on Real Progressives tonight at 9:00 Eastern. Peace Walker, $5. Hey Jordan, hi Jen. Hope you're feeling good. Are you still sending out emails when you're live? I'm not getting any. We are sending out a text message. I think we send out emails too. So if you're not getting them, email us info@statuscoup.com. info@statuscoup.com.
Colin's been sending them, so check your spam or sign up again for the email list.
Yeah. Double K, $20. Appreciate it, Double K. ABC, Yahoo, yeah, $4.99. Went to Flint only once, canvassing for Bernie right before COVID, March 2020, and I fell in love with the city and the people. Mm-hmm. I totally get it, Jen. Absolutely. We love Flint. Dan, $20. Appreciate it. Beauty and the Diabetes, $9.99. Appreciate it. Deborah Logan, $5. You should create a Flint Water Crisis 101 video where you outline the timeline of all the current details, including the financial ties. Wow. Wonderful idea. We'll get on it. Thank you, Deborah.
The timeline. We have a timeline started. We'll publish it eventually.
It's a great idea. All right, folks. Going over to rockfin.com/statuscoup.
To talk about, look at this guy behind me, if I can point.
We're going over there to discuss JFK and the CIA. And it's
Afghanistan too.
And it's connected to Afghanistan. So sign up, become a Rockfin premium member through Status Coup, rockfin.com/statuscoup. Again, once we get to a certain level, our guarantee revenue goes up. We'll see you over.
Which will then pay for a trip.
Yeah, a lot. So it will help us fund more journalism in the field. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you can sign up for Rockfin now, and we'll see you over at Rockfin in a minute.
See you over there, guys.
Bye-bye.